So, hey everyone, this is Neha. Most of you know me as part of the AI enthusiast circle. I'm constantly posting and harassing you guys. Before we start with the workshop, I want to give you a quick overview about the circle. It's a community that we have on WhatsApp for women to be able to exchange AI knowledge. We have people from all sorts of backgrounds, from experts to newbies. Everyone is welcome. It's a space for newbies to learn and grow, and experts to be able to share what they are working on, share their knowledge, and help others grow. I have focused on women because we tend to be a minority, as most of you know, in tech fields. And sometimes I think women find it uncomfortable to ask those, questions that might be silly. So this is a safe space for you to ask whatever questions you want. No question is silly, and it's a safe space for you to grow your knowledge and learn more about AI. So I'm going to start with the workshop now. We have here Ishita, who is actually part of our enthusiast community, AI enthusiast community, and she is the one who has helped us organize this event. So thank you, Ishita. She is a data scientist and product manager, and she feels very passionately about enabling women to enter the AI space, which is why we are here today. And she's helped us organize this event. So she and her partner Diwank have their own AI startup called Julep AI. And thank you so much, guys, for doing this on a weekend for us. And thank you for all the attendees as well for coming on a weekend and joining us for this. Divank has quite an extensive AI background. He's an AI researcher. He's a 2013 Thiel Fellow, a Mozilla Web Forward Fellow, and he's been an AI founder for the last 11 years. And together, they have built this AI platform. It's an agents platform. Don't worry, they're going to explain all the concepts, where they have fine tuned LLMs for conversational use cases. Again, they're going to explain all of this. So, on to you guys. I'm really excited.
Thanks, Neha. Thank you, everyone, for taking time off on a Saturday. And I am really excited to talk about just what I find to be one of the most exciting things that has happened to me, because I literally live and breathe AI. I've been doing that for the last 11 years. And it almost feels palpably close to science fiction today. So it's just an amazing time for me to be alive. And it's also really exciting to be able to share this with you guys. And so without further ado, let me um, get started. Just a quick question here. Are we waiting for anyone else to join or?
No, you can go ahead. It's already 11:11, so just start off, and whoever will join, I'll keep and letting the mentor in. And you can share your screen whenever you need
Sure.
to.
Yep. Okay. So, all right. Welcome to this talk. So, this talk is Prompting 101, or how to get language models to behave, and how to get them to work for you and do some amazing things. And I'm going to be following this structure. So first, we're going to talk briefly about how language models work, the brief history of how we got here, demystifying a lot of jargon. So one of my biggest goals in this whole exercise is that hopefully I'm able to um, really remove the mystery and um, this air of like geeky, impenetrable, like magic to these things, and help you have a decent mental model of what these things are, what they do, and how you can use them in your personal and professional lives. And so, yeah, so today what we're going to learn is we're going to learn basics of foundation models. What is prompting? What are the different prompting techniques for working with language models, applying these to a few real life examples. Um, and so here's my promise to you that by the end of this session, you will have a good mental model for thinking about generative models and how to use them. I'm going to focus entirely on language today, but most of these ideas actually translate well to all of the other kinds of models that we have out there. And today we can, I don't know if you've been following, but you can go to stableaudio.com, generate music on command. You can go to udio.com and ask it to generate a song. It literally, like, you can tell the lyrics, the kind of music you want. It is amazing, and I'll be sending all of these links after the talk to everyone. But you can create images, you can create videos. You must have seen Sora, and the all of the current advancements in AI are stemming from some recent developments, and we're going to briefly talk about that. But yeah, I promise that by the end of this session, you will have a good mental model to think about these. Number two, you're going to have a standard foolproof workflow. I know many of you here are complete beginners to language models, and don't worry, you will be able to follow through without any difficulty. But a lot of you here are professionals who want to use these models. So we'll come up with a foolproof workflow for building complicated prompts and be able to write, brainstorm, plan, build lots of cool stuff. And it can be confusing to start with, but once we have this workflow, you'll be able to just get through and work with language models very easily. Um, and I also promise that you're going to have a very, very discerning ear for filtering out noisy buzzwords. You can completely learn to ignore them. Most of this is complete crap. But in order to do this, I'm gonna ask you for a few things. Um, Number one is ideas in this talk build on each other, and I'm gonna go fast to cover a decent amount. So please find a good space to sit down, spare your full attention for yourself and for everyone else's sake here. Number two, ideally, but not strictly required, have a notepad handy. You do not need to take any notes. We will send you notes. Don't worry about that. But have a notepad handy for questions. And the reason I'm showing you the structure is that I will, at multiple points during the talk, pause entirely and just take questions. So please note down questions. You don't need to take any other notes. So yeah, that is all that I need from you. So we can get started. So welcome to Prompting 101, or how to get LLMs to do what you want them to do. Just a quick recap. Large LLM, whenever I say LLM, what I mean to say is a language model. LLM is short for large language models. Um, if that seems unfamiliar, just replace it mentally with the phrase AI model. So that's that's what we're going to be working with. So again, we're going to cover basics of foundation models or language models, AI models, figure out and understand what is prompting, apply these to some real life examples. By the end of the session, you will have a standard foolproof workflow for using these models, both for personal and professional goals. We're not going to go over techniques that require coding to make them work. I think once you get the hang of prompting, that's 80% of the way through, and then you can dive into more advanced techniques and apply them. So, yeah. So we can get started now. Uh, we're all good. Everyone's here. Again, thank you all for being here. This is Prompting 101. I'm Divank, and I'm going to be walking you through this session. All right. So, uh, some of you, I think all of you here must have gotten a form from Neha. Thank you, Neha, for sending that across. I got already a few questions, um, and I will be covering those questions in this talk. I'll quickly go through them so that you know these ones that are going to be covered at least. So, question one is, please explain how different prompts work with different LLMs. We'll come back to all of these questions, but I just want to walk through the questions themselves. Prompt generation tools, should we use them? Someone asked, and I appreciate this question. Given that you are building LLMs with empathy, what is the future you see with the personal care aspect in the healthcare industry? Do AI programs tend to produce the same output for similar queries, or is each one unique? How reliably could one get the AI program to quote the sources it used to derive an answer? Best utilities of LLMs. How can we write content with the help of AI and still give the human touch? And could you provide a beginner's reading on how to get started with LLMs and AI? So, yeah, so we will come back to all of these questions in due time. Most of them will be answered by themselves throughout the talk. Um, but yeah, so before we start, let me first actually absolutely emphasize how crazy, amazing, magical all of this really is. So just the fact that you can ask ChatGPT 4, write a poem about love, or write a poem about chimpanzee love, or write a poem about a chimpanzee's love for her baby daughter, or E. Cummings is one of my favorite modern poets, or and the last one I promise. And I just want to say that this poem has never been written. And just think about how amazing this thing is. You know, just like I think I want to emphasize really as deeply as I can is that the most important thing to take away from this, if anything, is just how exciting and amazing and beautiful um, this new wave of AI is and how empowering it can be. I will post this song. Yeah, I will post this song later for everyone to peruse and remember. But yeah, so language models are amazing, and they can be absolutely incredibly useful and incredibly creative, and they can be very empowering. Um, and just to give you another example is just yesterday I'm happened to be the uh, chef in charge in the house, and I was trying to give our I was trying to make egg curry with my domestic help, and he does not know how to read uh, English or Hindi. And I had this recipe that I wanted to follow that I found online. The website was not allowing me to copy, so I took screenshots, put this inside ChatGPT, and I said, "Okay, can you write down the whole attached recipe and ingredients in Hindi, and of course ignore the ads." And this is what it came back with. आपके द्वारा भेजी गई रेसिपी हिंदी में लिखना शुरू करता हूँ all the way to पोषण मान केवल संकेतात्मक है. And then I don't know if you can hear this, but um, then I got it to record this, sent it to my domestic help, and he made it without any interference. This whole process took like 5 minutes. And this is just kind of like a glimpse of all of the things that will be possible very, very soon and that you can do today. I mean, not even possible. So, yeah, so just to give you a glimpse, like a feeling of how powerful these tools are, right? Okay, so getting back into our talk. Uh, Again, depending on how much experience you have with language models and with AI models, or if you've been keeping up with them, there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of really mysterious words and phrases that people throw around. Um, and I think, I mean, it is unfortunate because this keeps not like people who are just genuinely curious, who don't have a background in AI, who are not obsessively trying to keep up with every new thing. It keeps them away from this, and I wish it wasn't the case. To be honest, all of this is just really revenge of the nerds, if you will, because this is, again, something that is taken off in such a wild fashion, and the nerds are trying to, defend their territory, if you must. But almost everything you hear, everything, and just to remind you, please do not take notes. This is not important. I'll send you the slides. Um, in fact, what I want to emphasize even more is that almost every phrase that you could come across: hallucinations, language models, few shot prompting, zero shot prompting, vector search, tool calling, tokens, context window, chain of thought, fine tuning. All of these, barring maybe one or two, are extremely simple ideas. Just to give you an example, hallucination is just any unexpected behavior in language models. And we'll come back to this topic towards the end of the presentation. But that's all it is, the model doing something that it was not intended to do. Language models. I uh, love to kind of remind people that how many shots are considered few? Okay, that's a great question. I'll come back to it. So, actually, Neha, could I ask you if you could maybe collate the questions, and when I come around to them, I will absolutely. Okay, I appreciate it. Right. So, I want to emphasize that language models are just, in one way, you can think of them as glorified autocomplete systems. In fact, if you have an iPhone and you see the autocomplete, it is powered by a language model. That language model and GPT-4 that we just played with is not different at all, other than in size. And that's just the most wonderful thing, and I'll talk about it. But that's all they are. If you can look at an autocomplete system and see, okay, I could see how that might work. It's not very different. Similarly, like few shot prompting, just giving examples in the prompt when you're writing a prompt is few shot prompting. Um, Vector search by meaning. Like I wish we could just replace wherever you talk about wherever people drop these phrases with this phrase on the side. I think the world would be like a lot simpler and nicer place. But yeah, we will be talking about um, some of these during the course of this talk. The most important ones and the only ones to really uh, take away from, because they might come up and they're important ideas, is one, large language models. Um, these are interesting um, matrices. These are very, very giant matrices that encode information. And if you give them a sentence, they predict the next word. That's it. They're not unlike autocomplete. Okay. Prompting. This is preparing the question in a way that the model has the best chance of answering. So, for example, you could just, um, I can give you an example of a bad prompt. A bad prompt would be, so this is probably not what you intended. And tokens are basically, you can think of them as words, but they're any piece of language. The language does not just have words. Language also has things like punctuation, things like line separators, and different emojis. So this is a general term for what what language can be broken down into different pieces. So a token can be an emoji, it can be a word, it can be punctuation. Then fine tuning is the process of taking an existing model and modifying it for a specific use case. I'll come back to this in later parts of the talk. And embeddings. By embeddings, it's just any family of techniques to convert sentences or paragraphs or anything larger into a list of numbers, because machine learning works in numbers, and that's it. And embedding is a way of turning um, sentences into a list of numbers. So yeah, I will briefly pause here so that if anyone needs to write down any questions, please feel free to do that.
Diwank, there was a question about shots that you asked me to note down.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um,
So I'm gonna come back to the question after the next slide. But
okay.
yeah, I appreciate that question. Cool. And okay, so how we got here, and really uh, where where did we suddenly, like, think about it. 4.5 years ago, which seems like an eternity now, if I told you that I will be able to just by myself make a full length short film, 12 minutes long, with nothing but me, a computer, 8 to 10 hours, that would be mind blowing. Like nothing else other than, and I'm talking everything. I'm talking script. I'm talking video. audio, songs, a very enticing plot lines, maybe even computer generated graphics, all of it from scratch, maybe in 8 hours tops. And I'm keeping ample time here. And at that point, that would have been quite ridiculous. And we can do that today. So, how do we get here? Um, and what are the, sort of big steps that we took? So, we kind of started with spam filters. And again, I'm going to, in this talk, focus on language. But we started with spam filters, and these are actually not very, very new. We have had spam filters since the 80s. And the way spam filters work is quite interesting, and very surprisingly simple. I know there's some data scientists in the audience, so please forgive the hand wavy, uh, explanations. So, one second. So the way spam filters work is, um, if you have a legitimate article, let's say we have a Wikipedia article on, sure, MRI, and these words have a certain amount of repetitions and a certain amount of relationships with each other. So, for example, in this, medical imaging is going to appear together with medical before imaging, and so on and so on. And you can just literally count the number of times these things happen. And it turns out that for, if you counted all of these and made a large list and went through all of Wikipedia, which you can actually do on a reasonably fast computer within a matter of a few hours, you will have a list of, frequencies of, in a relevant article, in a meaningful article, these words appear next to each other in this frequency. And it turns out that whenever you have spam, uh, it doesn't match this frequency. So this is the sort of early natural language processing that we used to do, and this is how all of the spam filters used to work in the past, and most actually still do, and they're incredibly effective. Then around, I want to say around 2012. So this is new. We start getting into new and rapid development around 2012 with the idea of word vectors. Again, like I said, machine learning is incredibly powerful. We've had that for a while. But machine learning works with numbers. So for the longest time, we didn't really have a good way of converting text into a number representation that had any meaning. So spam filters, in a way, were counting words in articles and made these lists and whatnot. But again, not that helpful. But in 2012, we had a breakthrough, and the breakthrough kind of looked like this, um, where we figured out a way that we can take a word in, any word in the English language or any other language, for example, and we could turn it into a list of numbers in a way that those numbers, so let's say this is a basic simple graph, there's nothing complicated mathematically here. So let's say the word king, using the method that we discovered, we could convert the word king into, in this case, let's say -1, -2, 4, and 0. And similarly, the word man would be, in this case, let's say 3, 3, and 0. And it turns out that the word woman would be 3, 2.5, and 1, and so on and so forth. And it we found that when you do this, there is almost a mathematical ability to them. So if you have the word king, and if you have the word man and the word woman, um, the word the you know, this is standard vector math, and you can calculate the distance, the direction between them. If you take this guy and you add it a king, it turns out that you get queen. And so we started discovering these patterns, and this was one of the first ways where you can turn a number, a word into um, a series of numbers that have mathematical meaning to them. Another great example of this would be this one. So that is a relatively simple examples where king plus um, man minus woman equals queen. But not only that, like you can think of any other word, any other relationship, and if you had the word Hitler and you had the word Germany, and if the difference between Italy minus Germany added to Hitler gave you Mussolini, or Germany minus Hitler plus Italy gave you Mussolini. So these things, I mean, think about what they're like. They're not just capturing uh, prime minister. This thing is capturing uh, difference between these two countries in 1935. And if you take this vector and add it to anything, if you added this to India, it would be Nehru. If you added this to US, it would be something else. So this technique, and that has come to be known as word to vec, basically learned all of these very, very interesting representations. And so finally, we had this like, this was the first hint that now something was beginning to happen. Okay. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but this led to intent recognition, uh, which is basically how Alexa was formed. So it's these, my Alexa just went off. So these word vectors led to intent recognition 2015. Um, and this is what Alexa used. And finally, we came to transformers in 2017. Um, this was invented by Google in a very amazing paper. But they found a new model architecture or structure called transformers that can learn these things even more effectively, ridiculously effectively, in fact. And that's actually the T in GPT. So GPT is short for generative pre-trained transformer. The That is a very, very fancy way of saying an autocomplete that I can train on all of internet, and now it just knows shit. So that's what a GPT is, and that's how we sort of got here. And yeah, so actually, before I go further, um, happy to take questions now. And I have a few questions that the audience had asked that I mentioned earlier that I would want to go over as well. So, is this more correlation based? Okay. So, is this correlation based? The word vectors, yes. Word vectors actually, but it's surprising. The result was surprising. Basically, in order to figure out, you know, what these numbers were. So, like for example, cat here. I mean, not precise, but it looks like it's something like 2, 0.5, and 0.5 in 3. Uh, axes, right? Which word has what point? The way this was calculated was, let's say I want to go through all of Wikipedia and find what is the number that uh, I put cat, if I assign it to cat, it is going to be related to rat, or be related to, or be close to rat, or be close to animals, and so on and so forth. But rat should be closer to a mouse than to a cat. So if you try, and of course this takes a lot of computation. Even just this, you can imagine, takes a lot of computation. Um, so if we keep repeating that, how do I adjust the numbers for rat so that it's close enough to cat because they're similar, much closer than, let's say, a bat, but at the same time rat should be closer to mouse than to cat, and so on and so forth. So it is correlation based. It's literally going through all of this data. But it is surprising that this emerges because we did not train it for these abstract concepts like uh, the relationship between countries in 1930, 34 or 38 or whatever. Same with womanness, is not something that was is even actually part of the vocabulary. It just emerges. So this was interesting, cool, and unique. And let me see. So one question that I had, that I was asked, that I want to talk about right now. Given that you're building LLMs with empathy, what is the future you see with personal care? So, thank you for that question. This way, I don't have to do a shameless plug, and I can just talk about a little bit about what we're doing. So, at Julep, we are trying to build models that have empathy, that are chatty, conversational, and easy to use. And to answer this question, I think it's going to be massive, of course, but um, both in terms of personalization as well as user experience. I think it is so. This has so much possibilities and so many interesting use cases because for the first time you can build systems that learn and adapt and understand. Like if I can talk to the system. So, for example, for very tricky things, I mean, simple things, sure, but even for tricky things like medicine adherence or medicine compliance, people don't take their medicines. Um, is really personal and tricky. When someone doesn't want to take medicines for whatever reason, it's very frustrating for them. And so it's very tricky to get it right. And so a system that can just talk is can be amazing, and I know some people that are working on this problem. Similarly, for diet, exercise, mental health coaching, this is going to be revolutionary because a system that's not, you can imagine it as an app, or yeah, as an app on your phone, let's say, an app that is not empathetic and not flexible is just not going to work. It's going to be very, very frustrating, right? So yeah. And another question that I wanted to talk about: do AI programs tend to produce the same output for similar searches, queries, or is each one unique? Um, so, yeah. So language models are actually deterministic, meaning a language model, and it's actually a good place to talk briefly about language models. Um, so you and I think everyone on this call, we can pretend to be a language model for a second. So read this sentence or phrase carefully. All cats are, and I'm pretty sure everyone's thinking the same word, which is obviously evil. Um, but that's what language models do, right? Um, they have learned over time and over lots and lots of training how to predict the next word. So a language model literally is responsible for. So yeah, so this is the language model's only responsibility. So the goal of a language model, or in this these AI models, is predicts the next word. So it only predicts the next word. This is an autocomplete system. So when you see a language model actually writing stuff, when I gave it a prompt for write a poem, what we do is, so let's say in this one, and let's say it keeps writing evil, evil, evil. We're actually sending, so in this case, we send um, this whole thing and got this. Then in the next step, we send this whole thing and get this. And in the next step, we send this whole thing and then get this. And if the model is trained correctly, it will say something that is that makes sense. So when you see a model start writing, it is basically we give it the next word that it predicted, add it back, and then send it again, and then add it back, and then send it again, and then add it back, and then send it again. So these models just predict the next thing, and how they do that is basically, I'll talk about this. Yeah. So this is what a model looks like, and the word "large" in large language models is an understatement. These things are huge, but each of this block, each as we call layers, is just a matrix. It's just a simple matrix, the same matrix that we learned in grade eighth, ninth, if you had taken math. But and a matrix is just a list of numbers, really, and you multiply them together. So what is happening is that we take uh, this input and then we convert this into a list of numbers with that same technique that we discovered called word vectors. And then we take take this thing, which is a also you can consider this a matrix, and you just multiply it. And if you multiply it with this layer, and then multiply the result of that with that layer, and keep multiplying, and out here magically we would get this guy, which is Harry Potter was a highly unusual boy. Least favorite teacher, Professor Snape. So, and just to give you an idea of how big these models are, um, each layer is uh, hundreds of matrices, and all of them get multiplied together and keep multiplying it, and then that's how you get the output. Um, in a typical language model, the layers that you have, many repetition, is about anywhere between 128 to all the way to 700 matrices, each one having like 1,000 matrix. So that's how these things work. Um, at the end of the day, they are simple things. They are just a list of matrix. They just happen to be large. And if there's anything, the biggest discovery I would say of this uh, decade has been that if you take language and you find an effective way of compressing it, because that's what happened here. We took language, we trained it a bunch of times, And you can imagine this takes training these models on 600, 800 machines simultaneously takes 3 to 4 months, and they cost millions of dollars to train. But if you can compress language effectively, the result is the same as intelligence. And that has been the biggest kind of discovery that we made so far this decade. So, okay, so carrying on. Oh, and I have, let me zoom back. So, yeah, before I go further, happy to take more questions.
I think the Diwank, we can proceed.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was this one question. Yeah, so to answer this question, since these are just matrix calculations, they are the same for the same input. Although in practice, there's a minute amount of randomness, you get similar answers for the same query. Another question that I want to take a crack at right now is best utility of language models. Well, it really depends, but almost any problem that requires general knowledge and common sense reasoning, which is most problems, can be augmented with these models. And perhaps I can show you an example of that. Um, so one of the things that I do with ChatGPT is actually brainstorming very complicated ideas that obviously are not there on any blog out there. It's a completely new research idea, and it doesn't exist. I can't go read about it. But GPT-4 in general is smart enough. It can't come up with new ones, but it can definitely help me come up with these new ideas and brainstorm it and critique it, because it has so much knowledge about all kinds of topics. And you guys can, and I really encourage you, sign up for ChatGPT, get a paid account. It is absolutely worth it, and just brainstorm even the craziest things. Brainstorm poems, brainstorm how to sneak around your boss, brainstorm how to plan for your finances, brainstorm how to take down the government, whatever it is, uh, no matter how complex, you can use these models to brainstorm this today. And for example, here I am actually, there's something called token sampling. You guys absolutely do not need to care about what that is, but I'm brainstorming this with ChatGPT, um, and discussing different ways of measuring entropy, variance, all of this. And this is a conversation that I'm having at a level that I would have with my professor. So, you know, utility of LLMs, I would say, very useful. You just almost have to get a hang of what these are. So just get ChatGPT, get Claude, whichever is your favorite, and just chat away. You'll be surprised. Uh, yeah. Okay. All right, so let's start with basics of prompting. Okay, so what is a prompt? What we just did is a prompt. This was a prompt. This is a prompt. Something even more complicated, let's say this is a prompt. And I guess you guys can begin to see what I like to do with my free time. But yeah, this is a prompt. But a prompt is just way of uh, telling a language model what you need its help for. And for a reasonably good model, a good prompt is basically a well written request. And you can think of a prompt as a memo that you would give to an assistant or an employee. And so basically, the same rules that apply to writing a good memo apply to writing a good prompt. Um, and we even for people who haven't had as much experience with prompting, we're talking about this because outside of simple examples or like outside of simple requests, it takes work to get the model to do the right things. Because as intelligent or as powerful, I would say, as they are, they won't magically know um, answers to, or they won't magically be able to do anything. So let me give you an example of that. So let's say I say,
Hey Diwank, we have
Can you zoom?
request to
Yeah,
zoom in a bit so that people can
yeah,
read.
for sure, for sure.
Thanks.
So, write a blog post about becoming famous with 1,500 words. Now, this is, of course, getting, it's just incredible that it can even do this. But uh, right now, you cannot control what the style of this is. You cannot control how it's going to write it. And you might find yourself frustrated with, how to get it to do certain things. And the whole idea and the premise for this talk is really um, what how can we do this better, or what is the structure of getting it to write a good blog post that you need. So coming back to the idea, same rules apply as for writing a memo, which is, I will take some notes here. So you want to be clear, be concise, you want to be specific as to what you want to get done. You want to define a single goal, what you want from this, which ideally should be attainable, and write down and this the most surprising one that I shouldn't have to say so much, but please use good English. Just good writing is 50% at least of the work done. For the product managers in this call, um, you can think of prompting as writing a good PRD, which is product requirement document. Um, just think of writing a memo that you would give to an assistant or an employee. Be clear, be concise. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, completely agree. There's no thing as prompt engineering. It's overblown. In fact, I think prompt engineering exists for the main reason that most people are so lazy that they can't even write a good set of instructions. And maybe that's not so surprising. So, same rules apply. Um, because I had written this down. Sorry. Be clear, be concise, and be specific. Um, Don't worry, I'm going to be showing a lot of this uh, in a little bit, and you will get a sense of how to do this in real life. So, tools of the trade. If you are writing and working with language models, you need, for the average person, you need ChatGPT and Claude, or ChatGPT or Claude. Lately, I've preferred Claude. These are two different products by different companies. And among these, you want to use the largest models. So, for example, um, this so far have we have been looking at ChatGPT, and most people should be familiar with it. But if you have not signed up, please sign up. I would strongly recommend the paid plan. It's not that much for how much work you can get done. If nothing, you can just, and I can actually show you this one. Where is it? Yeah, one of the most useful things, and this I did literally this morning, is I wrote this entire talk down and then asked ChatGPT to convert this into text, and then asked ChatGPT to convert it into slides. So the slides that you were actually looking at are from ChatGPT. So yes, so ChatGPT, use GPT-4. It is incredible, absolutely worth it. Another one is Claude. You can try both and see which one you like. For most things now, I prefer Claude, but ChatGPT is also great. Um, when you start running into uh, the need for better prompting, Hemingway is your best friend. It's simply if you toss in any prompt, let's say, yeah, I can't think of it example, but toss in any prompt here, and maybe I can ask this guy, and it'll tell you, okay, this is too complicated. This is too complicated. You can simplify it. This just helps you simplify things. So this is very useful. And I will, of course, post all of these links, so don't worry about that. And uh, sorry. And for more advanced, okay, so these two are what you need um, for personal private use cases. One of these, just one of these is good enough, but please get the paid version. If you're a builder, then you definitely will need Grammarly or Hemingway, as well as GPT Playground. As a builder, you sort of get grow beyond ChatGPT very, very quickly. So this is what the GPT Playground looks like. This is how you would play with the raw model. ChatGPT comes with a lot of stuff that is already taken care of. For example, you can't see it, but there is a lot of instructions on what to say, what not to say, that is invisible to you, that ChatGPT adds. Here, there's none of that. So if you're building applications, you'll be building them here. And for us in the rest of this um, talk, we will be largely working inside here. So these are tools of the trade. So just to recap, ChatGPT, Claude, Playground, Hemingway. All right, so main techniques. So there are a few main techniques, and at this point, we are transitioning to advanced prompting, um, well beyond your typical use cases, but powerful nonetheless. So first of all is use examples. Oh, I just realized I had not answered that question about how many shots are considered few. 1, 10, 100. So a few shot means some examples. Short here's just examples. Um, so zero shot means don't give an example, just say write a poem. Uh, an example, let's say if you want GPT to write in your style, one of the most effective ways you can do that is give an example of your own poetry and then ask it to um, yeah to emulate that. So let me give you an example. Please don't hold me accountable. This is very, very old. Uh, okay. So, so Shubha, what I mean by a builder is people building applications on top of ChatGPT. But by the way, these tips apply for everyone. Yeah, I'll come back to that one. Okay, so this is a few shot, and in here I'm giving it one example, and let's say so it does it a little bit, and let's see if I can add more examples. So as you can see, this style is not really matching. So now let's try a better model. So we were using GPT 3.5. There you go. So this is few shot prompting. That's it. Just give it examples. I'm not going to share that. Okay. So that's use examples. This is one of the most powerful and underused technique that people like. See, you're giving. Yes, yes, you can. In fact, by the way, one quick note. This is a backtick. You would find that on the top left corner of your keyboard. Is very handy because it's not frequently used and allows you to clearly define difference between this is so this is clear to ChatGPT. This is one point, and you will see me use these, and they're very useful. So that's just one of the things. But yeah, you can use this in ChatGPT. In fact, let's try Claude. There you go. All right. Technique two, and like I said earlier, go through these pretty quickly. So please take notes on questions. So the other thing is let them think, and what I mean by that is language models. Okay, if you think of these as autocomplete systems, um, then just recall the last time you used autocomplete, and it is more effective the more content there is in it, because that way it can because that way there it kind of narrows its scope quite a bit, right? So that's the same idea with letting these models think. It is just a lot better and easier for them to then do this. So for example, this is called change, like there are fancy words for it. the fanciness comes from PhD people having pressure to just do this. Um, yeah, no, Vinita, ChatGPT does not have memory at the moment. So you will have to do this every time right now. So yeah, so chain of thought just means let them think. So just to give you an idea, um, here we are. You, the idea is that before they give the answer, let them write and plan and think by just writing stuff down. So I can just say, distracting, before you get started, please first, okay, keep them simple. We ran out. As you can see, this poem is vastly superior. I should have saved the previous ones, but vastly superior, a lot longer. And this technique applies for writing, especially for writing of any sort. Um, you literally just need to add these two lines. That's it. And you can apply the same thing to Claude or ChatGPT. So same thing I can do with ChatGPT, and this sort of just works. Okay, I'll let it keep going. All right. Technique number three: role assign a persona. So if you want, like, one of the most powerful ways you can help the model follow your instructions and get your style is to give it a persona to follow. By default, it's just trying to be an robotic AI assistant. So, for example, so this example is kind of getting a little hard to describe or show this technique, but especially for, and this is not as applicable for people um, using ChatGPT directly. I mean, again, it is very powerful, and you sort of want to apply these techniques roughly in this order. So definitely let them think, add examples, assign a persona, and then you can continue to do that. So, for example, maybe this is not that good of an example. So let's say, okay. So now let's change this. You are, it's almost kind of like you are uh, writing a screenplay for the behavior that you expect. So let's try now. Got that. Okay. And let's say we step this up even more. That's a really good question, Kashma. I will be, yeah, I'll get back to you. Okay. So let's say, yeah, in my uh, 21 years. So as you can see, it starts to take a very different shape. Um, it starts from a robotic thing to this, and hi Diwank, is this something specific? Have you been, spending time with the dog? Blah blah blah. Yeah, that's a great question. How is defining the persona from the playground different from GB 3.5 or 4? So in ChatGPT, system prompt has actually already been added. You cannot see it, but it's already there. You can add it on top, but it would basically it would not follow any instructions that conflict with the system prompt that OpenAI has added. And so that's one of the things that kind of is tricky. All right. Um, yeah. Then review answer, um, and give documents its context. So review answer is largely a very simple idea, which is you can't see this because it's weird. Jesus. Let's say you have some guidelines. The poem should be 5 lines long. You can actually ask the model, please review your answer. Does it follow all of the guidelines? If not, please rewrite. So now it does that. So Karishma, this is basically the idea is it should, but if especially when there are lots of examples, lots of instructions, the models may have trouble following everything. Then, if for example you have corporate guidelines or something like that, you can actually do this review and edit phase. Okay. Um, and Chitra had a question. Yeah. How many prompts before ChatGPT can formulate a particular style, and that's related to how many shots are considered few? Honestly, the bigger and the better the model, the less amount of examples it takes. For me, for simple things like, sorry, for simple things like poems, or at least in my case, this was fairly straightforward style. Um, 2 examples worked, sometimes three maybe, but you can simply like really, if whenever you're in doubt, you can just think, okay, if I were to give this as a memo to an intern who's not paid at all, how many examples will that person need? And that's roughly the amount of examples that ChatGPT will need. All right. And the last one is give documents as context. By the way, if you've heard things like retrieval augmented generation, RAG, all that stupid stuff, basically means that you find a way to stuff examples from documents. This is RAG. I just manually uh, put documents in here. And the way in real life, or rather, the way it in typical applications RAG works is something called vector search, which means that if I take all of my documents, convert them into these vectors, and I can just say, okay, there's this new question that I just got. What is the closest? How likely would you recommend the AI platform? I wouldn't recommend it. And yeah, so you would use a database of documents like this, and you can automatically find the closest documents in meaning to the question that you had. Yeah, just to get back to questions, outside of these couple of tools, and when talking about coding, that's a whole different thing. And we'll be conducting office hours, so for those kind of questions, we can come back. But you really don't need anything. Prompt generation doesn't work; it's shitty. Uh, yeah, you don't really need anything other than these 3, 4 tabs, depending on your use case. All right, we're running above time, so I'm sorry, folks, that we're running late. But there is basically 2 more things I want to talk about. So just so you know, what if you want to leave, what you will or will not be missing. Um, so I want to talk about the standard workflow What is a good workflow as a user, what is a good workflow as a builder, and finally a bonus section on um, challenges, hallucinations, and stuff like that. Okay, uh, so anatomy of a good prompt. Okay, so a good prompt is these five things in this order, and really the goal and instructions are the required things. If you are starting with a simple thing, like write a poem is a goal. Write a poem in the style of E. Cummings is an instruction. Um, Giving examples of how I write it is context. You are a poet whose 11-year-old brain or whatever is role. And that's basically it. So let me quickly annotate that. So let's say, yep. So this is the role. This is the goal. This is the context. These are additional instructions. And then finally, surround. By the way, yeah, generally smaller models are ridiculously dumb. So, okay. So let me talk about this. this. So this is a good prompt. And this is the role. This here is the goal. This is the context. This is instructions. And this is indicators. And that this is the anatomy of a good prompt. And roughly speaking, the you want to sort of start with the goal. Um, then you want to write your instructions. Then, if needed, you kind of graduate to adding context. This could be documents, this could be um, examples. If you still need more control, you want to specify a role, and then finally, indicators. Why are indicators important? So imagine if I am, especially if I want to let the model write stuff around it, um, write stuff around to plan and then to review after. You want to be able to extract clearly the actual output. And you can give instructions as to, okay, surround it by five dashes, so on and so forth.
Diwank, I have a suggestion.
Yep.
Can we quickly go over parameters because that's quite essential to prompting?
Mhm. Okay, so what Ishita is talking about is these things in the left or the right, different parameters. So one, you have the model, temperature, maximum length, all of this stuff. The single most important thing about parameters is that you do not need any of them. Um, don't bother about these. You can learn about them if you're curious, and I'd be happy to talk about them. But previously these were important to set, but with good enough models, you really don't need to set penalties anymore. Um, none of these. I mean, I don't even want to get into what they mean because it's just confusing and doesn't help. The only parameters that you should know about is GPT-4 Turbo, temperature, maximum length, and I'll talk about them. So with the model, just pick the best model out there. For ChatGPT, it automatically picks four for you, and that's the one you need to use. Um, I'll come back to temperature. Maximum length is not what people think. This doesn't say, and this is only applicable if you're inside the playground. This doesn't say that write something that's 1800 words long. It says that in order to save cost, if it's just going crazy, stop after 1800 words because every word counts towards a little bit of cost, um, like a fraction of a cent. But if you're building a product, this could be important to set. In general, you just want to set it to as big as you can. For temperature, you want to set it to temperature is a measure of how much riskiness you want the model to be. So, for example, for sensitive things, business, all of that, you want it to business, medical questions, you want it to set it to zero. For every other thing, you want to set it to 0.7. And that's all you need to remember. So, and you do not need to care about anything else. So if you want to actually control that the essay should be 5,000 words or less, you tell the model that. And yeah, I actually at this point, let me. Does anyone have any questions? Aparna asked, how many clear prompts can one query take in general? Are you expected to add prompts iteratively? As a user, iteratively is best. If you're kind of breaking down the problem one by one, like for example this, and then I want to add a guideline, it works best iteratively. In an application, building an app or so on, you can't always do that. A rule of thumb is 10 instructions is a decent amount. Anything above that starts to become difficult. Um,
Frank
yeah.
Krishna has a question.
Right. Does temperature impact how closely the model follows the goal and instructions? Yes, temperature does impact how closely the model follows the goal and instructions. But like I said, for a model, see, like this is an advanced thing, but for a model, going above 0.7 is when you start going in like risky territory. Like I'll show you what 2 does, especially with GPT 3.5 Turbo. Yeah, it just goes crazy. So yeah, you wanna be around 0.7 and or below. Good models will follow instructions even at 0.7. But for sensitive stuff, and you're like absolutely, the best. Yeah, you can attach. So in both, let me actually zoom out a little bit. Why is this here? Yeah, so you can attach. You can attach images. You can attach PDF files. You can attach text files. Um, all of those. Yeah. Okay. So as a user, what's the difference between various models that makes any of them ideal? Not really. Again, GPT-4, Claude has a version called Opus. Their best models are all really good. Some are slightly better at writing, but really the difference is minute. Um, and it's only like for regular use cases, you do not need either. But if you're a professional, let's say, for example, let me give you an example. So if you are a writer, I would recommend Claude. Claude just tends to write better. For almost every other thing, like write an email, so on and so forth, GPT-4 is the best or safest to go with. For NSFW use cases and whatnot, you can't use any of the public models. Gemini is shit. Just don't use Gemini. Sorry, Google. Okay. Um, okay. I'm gonna. So Neha, quick question. What should we do with time? Are if people are free? Should we just kind of
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be good to at least start wrapping up the content if we can, because it's been
yeah,
quite over. And I don't want
yeah,
people to, feel like they can't ask questions, because there are quite a
yeah,
few questions coming up. And just a heads up, everyone, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask the question if that makes it easier. Divank, if rather than maybe you can just go over the content rather than showing it as examples. That might save time.
yeah,
So if you can just
yeah?
go over your slides and just say it rather than demonstrate it, that might speed things up.
Works.
Thanks.
Okay. So as a user workflow, so there are two different standard workflows that you can take away. One is as a user. This is for your own application. I mean, for your own projects, brainstorming. Um, yeah, projects brainstorming in your professional career. If you're using it in any way for yourself, one of the best things is thank you. One of the most effective strategies that I've come up with is Socratic prompting, and what that means is, remember that as again, this model is kind of like your intern, right? And it's unpaid. It doesn't know anything other than what you were telling it in that prompt. It will not remember stuff. It's an unpaid intern. So you have to assume that it doesn't have any context. So the best thing that you can do is tell it to ask me questions. I'll quickly show you a pre-done example. Um, where's that example? Can't find that example. Okay, so basically, what you want to do is in between, one sec, Shiva. In between just going over your requests, tell the model, before you follow my instructions, ask me questions if there's anything not clear. That's very, very effective. Yes, Shubha. Shubha, were you saying something?
Shiva, you can unmute yourself and ask the question since you raised your hand. Okay, I guess she's not there. Maybe we can
Yeah,
continue, and when she's ready, she'll ask.
yeah, yeah. Okay, and as a builder, what you want to do is something called least to most prompting, which is basically least specific to most specific, meaning as you write your prompt, the role, and this is basically the same as this thing. The role goes on top, and the fine-tune instructions, the specific instructions, goes in the bottom, and that is the structure that you want to follow. Yeah. So least specific is who you are, your persona, and most specific being before you start think stuff through. The second thing is, sorry, this isn't correct. Lots of repetitions. So repeat yourself as much as possible. Push instructions upwards, meaning if you can, rather than saying write quirkily or write blah blah blah, you want to get push this into the role as much as possible. So you want to uh, the way this happens typically is you start out with a goal and you start doing and you start chatting, and then you eventually realize something is off and you keep adding instructions. You want to keep pushing them into the role as much as possible, as the most effective way to do that. And yeah, and basically just keep iterating and doing that. So this is the builder workflow. This is the user workflow. Yeah, I'll stop here and take questions. Yes, Girja.
Hi, thank you so much for the wonderful session. First of all, a lot of insights. My question is about the ethics in AI, which has been a much talked topic these days. So, for
Yeah,
example, if I have a research paper which I have written and I have now want ChatGPT or any such apps assistant to help it enhance further or make it ready for submitting the journal I am supposed to submit,
right.
how much chance is there to get these research leaked is my first question. And do I
Mhm.
have to also mention it in my acknowledgement or anywhere that this paper has been edited by ChatGPT
Okay,
from an ethics point of view?
those are great questions. Okay, so first of all, Girja asked, is there a chance for a leak? Uh, to be honest, you sort of have to trust them at the end of the day. But this is a similar amount of trust that we already place on things like Gmail and Google Docs. So, as safe as your content is on Gmail or Google Docs, these companies will have similar guarantees. At the end of the day, they're backed by public companies, they cannot risk, and they try to be very secure. As to should you cite, different journals and different conferences have different guidelines, so you should check with them. Some completely forbid using any kind of AI tools, so you should definitely be aware of them. AI generated content can be detected at the moment, um, so you have to be careful in that way. And yes, if the journal is okay, if the conferences are okay, um, then absolutely uh, go ahead and give a citation. I think that
Uh,
that's always helpful.
okay. So
Yeah.
since you mentioned that it is AI can be detected, even if it has just enhanced my paper, still it get detected as a AI generated paper.
Yes. So the way this works is that the prompt that you give to AI
I think the Diwank might be off. No one can hear him, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I think he might have got disconnected. Yeah. Yeah. I think he's off. Yeah. Connection issue. Yeah. I think the network might have gone down. I'll wait a minute or so, and otherwise, we will try to wrap it up. To answer some of your questions, I have been recording this. If all goes well, I will send you a recording. Also, there should be a transcript file as well, so you should have access to that. Yeah, he's gone offline. Yeah, Ishita and him both have. So if there are any other questions in the meantime that I can help with, or has he joined again? Oh, yes, he's joined. Okay, he's back. Hi, Divank. So you're mute.
Hi, sorry, I had an internet disruption.
No problem. No
Sorry.
problem.
So I was just so let me just finish with that thought. So most of these models have baked in something called watermarking, in which they forcefully make their text a little robotic so that it can be detected by others for plagiarism or multiple reasons. So yes, they can be detected.
Divank Noor had a question in the chat, which where she asked, "What is the best design for brainstorming?"
Oh yeah, what is the best tool for brainstorming? Right, right. For creative stuff, I would lean towards Claude, and Claude Opus is the one that you want to use. Claude Opus and GPT-4 both support images and scribbles, so yeah, I would lean towards that.
Any other question, guys? Please, now is the moment as we are running out of time. So do ask your questions while you can. Otherwise, I will start wrapping this up.
There were, I think, a few other questions that I may have. If there are no other questions, this is yeah how different prompts work with different LLMs. For the good ones, they're not that different. Should you use prompt generation tools? No, please avoid them. Most of them don't really work. We've already answered this one. This one. Okay, I think this one, last one, is relevant. How can we write content with the help of AI and still give the human touch? Uh, Co-editing is the only answer. So, please use these to get your first draft, and then edit. That is the best one. The human touch is you.
Okay. Would you like to, I just want to give you a chance to say a little bit about Julep before we go. Since this is the product you guys have been working on for so long, and it's a really, really cool product. So maybe a couple of minutes on this would be really nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just so at Julep, our mission is to make AI more human, more intelligent, and for that we've been building different products. We have our own large language model called Samantha, and we also have something called an agents platform, which is for other developers to make uh, what's called an agent. So if you're interested in working with our model, like the most unique thing about our model is that it's designed to be empathetic. It's designed to be chatty, and it's not like encumbered by like the guide like the really excessive safety guidelines of ChatGPT or Claude. So that's us. Please reach out. And yeah, and actually, I was while preparing for this talk, I asked my wife Ishita, who is a prolific speaker, on how to end the talk, and she said that she always ends the talk with a joke. That way, the audience thinks that they had a good time the whole time. So, thanks, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time.
Oh, I was waiting for the joke.
I I think, I think I should. I think I forgot to
Um,
write it.
I have a small question before we
I
go
know.
finish.
Hi, Noor.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Nice meeting you all. This has been really interesting. I wanted to ask about this product you're working on. Um,
Mhm.
is it a tool we can use already? We can access, or you're still working on it, or maybe I missed something.
No, you can access it today. So we are, in fact, we are going to be releasing a new model very soon. We will send you the link for this, but you can access our model today,
Guys, you can see the
and you
link
can
for the
also,
platform in the chat section.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's free. It's free to use, and you can get started today.
Yeah, we have actually already shared, whoever showed interest in wanting to share their work on their project with Julep and who want office hours with the Julep team. We have shared a form already, and Ishita will get in touch with you. She already has a list of your names. If you had indicated that on the registration form, if not, and after this talk, you would still like to speak to her, just DM me. You all have my email. So just DM me and I can put you in touch with her. I'm just going to say thank you, and whatever other questions and everything we can take offline. Thank you so much, Diwank and Ishita, for doing this. It was really, really good, really informative, and even for me, like I was learning stuff as well when you were talking about the new terms that I was, learning about and everything. So I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who's joined. I know some of you have already left, but thank you for the ones who stayed this long. And I know it's a weekend. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, we will have more workshops coming in the future. So keep an eye out. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Neha.
Thank you, Neha. Thanks for putting this together. I appreciate it. Ciao.